let's take a look at ripping sprites from a Spritesheet. Now in this folder I've downloaded a Spritesheet from the internet, and a Spritesheet is simply a collection of frames of animation used in some sort of a game. I did a search for Mario Spritesheet and I found one from the original Mario 1 game. If we load it into a graphics program, like I've got Photoshop open here, we can see that these are some familiar bad guys. Now I'm interested in using some of these in Scratch to have some animated bad guys. The best way for Scratch is, instead of working with the full Spritesheet, is to just individually save the frames that we want. This is called ripping images from a Spritesheet. Now, along the left-hand side here, I've picked a selection tool, a rectangular selection, and I've drawn it around one of the Goombas. I'm going to press Control-C or Edit Copy to copy that data. And I'm going to go File, New. Now in the dialog box that appears, we can see with 16 by 16 pixels, that's quite a small image. In fact, it's just got a bounding box around the exact shape of the Goomba. Even though you can see I didn't make a square shape, it's ignoring the checkerboard pattern, which is transparent pixels, because there's really nothing there. So it's just figured out sort of the smallest size that will fit what I've copied. If I hit OK, we can see it's a very small image. I'll zoom in a little bit. And if we go Edit Paste or Control V, we can see that our Goomba has filled the square quite nicely. Now we have white pixels in the background, and if you look at our layer palette, that's because the background layer is solid white. So I would actually take this background and I would drag into the trash or remove it. Now we can see that checkerboard pattern, meaning that there's transparency. We don't want to have a white square attached to this Goomba. We just want him to be the shape of the colored pixels. All right, so I've isolated one of the sprites. I'm going to go File, Save As, and the file format is really important here because a lot of graphics formats don't support transparency. So even if it's transparent in Photoshop or the program you're using, if I were to pick a JPEG, for instance, when I save it, it would convert those transparent pixels to white, which is what we're trying to avoid. A good format that doesn't create large files but does support transparency is a PNG file. And so that's what we'll choose to use here. I would choose to call this maybe Goomba 1, because I'm going to have two frames for walking and maybe one for when he gets squished. And are the options, we'll let it do some compression. It's going to basically make no difference in a picture like this. Hit OK. And if we look at our folder, now we've got Goomba1.png ready to go. I could simply repeat this process. I'll move my selection over. If you're using Photoshop, you could even just hide your first frame and then paste your new information. You can see if we make them both visible that there is a difference between them. I go File, Save As, again pick a PNG file, Goomba2.png, and we're away to the races. I could keep going and rip as many sprites as I think I might use. Now if I take a quick look at a blank Scratch project, we can load one of these images as a sprite. I'll pick Goomba 1, and under costumes, I'm going to load Goomba 2 as a second costume. And we'll make a little script that'll just, whenever we hit the flag, it'll loop between those two costumes. So we could use a forever block. And then under looks, we could say we want to go to the next costume. If we try this out, it'll be quite fast, right? We don't really like the look of that animation. Typically, when we're flipping between frames, we want there to be some sort of delay between the frames. If we throw wait 1 second in, we can see that that really drastically slows down the animation, maybe a bit too slow. So this is something where you might need to fine tune with a little bit of trial and error to find something that looks appropriate for how fast the character is moving on the screen. Okay, something like 0.2 seconds. Hey, that's not too bad. All right, there you have it.